and that affects children as well. So at age 12, if you'd have asked me what do you think Islam is about, I probably would have said, well, it means girls have to have long hair. They have to be, for some reason Islam means that Muslim girls must become doctors or dentists. And it also means that Muslim girls can't date, and Islam comes from Pakistan. So I would feel a lot less bad about that if it wasn't that I meet people from all walks of non-Muslim life, all walks of contemporary life, who have such limited knowledge now. And I think what's interesting for us to reflect upon is this presumption that surely, with Islam being in the mainstream so much, with us being negatively on the front pages so much, surely you've developed some knowledge about what Islam is. Do not take that for granted. People do not, and if you go on the internet now, what are the sources that get the top rankings? Because the far right, they pay for rankings. They know how to use the new media. Tommy Robinson, a fascist in the United Kingdom, has 2 million followers on things like Twitter and Facebook. These are funded by Zionist organizations, not my words, not my opinion. You can look at the Poverty Law Center in the United States. You can look at IIUI, they do some research into this. So there are Zionists, far-right parties in the Deep South, and Christian Zionists funding deliberate misrepresentation. So it's not enough that we appear in the context of either victims, women howling because their children have died, women taking off hijab and fleeing oppressive practices which are not from Islam, FGM, female genital mutilation, Christian phenomena in parts of Africa. Extremism, we're the people of the middle path, no one ever seems to bring that up. If you're extreme in any direction, you're going off the main path. So people don't know this, that's my point. How did I learn Islam then with this level of ignorance in my own life? Well, I think what's telling is that I was a journalist and I still didn't know anything about Islam despite the headlines. I went to Palestine in 2005 for the first time to find the truth. I was interested in seeing what was really going on there. I had a sense that in Palestine, I was not getting the full story. How could it be that a boy throwing a stone at a tank that I watched on my TV was described subliminally? You know, it's called dog whistle politics. Certain phrases used, extremist, radicalized children. So children are not children, okay? So this boy holding a stone called Faris O'Day, who made the news, he was the radical. But the man in the tank pointing a gun at a child was not radical. Just as a human being, people feel this. We are not higher human beings. We have higher knowledge, but the human heart is the same there. And I do want to bring this message to Pakistan because there is an idea that somehow in the West, Muslims don't love their children as much as anyone else. But when I went to Palestine, I'd never seen such beloved children, such children so cared for, so integrated into the life of the family, not a separate entity. You go over here and do your thing. You go and have your teenage life here, but feeding back. The teenage boys with the kids on the shoulders. You don't see that in the UK. I've never seen a teenage boy with a young cousin, you know, as part of their daily life. But you see that in the Muslim world, and that 2005 started to change me, subhanallah. But I had a realization as well in the West Bank. I was going to interview Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority, during the first day of his leadership actually ever. And in order to meet a world leader, you have to go through security. So there I was, a young-ish journalist, non-Muslim, on her first ever trip to the Middle East. Suddenly, I'm surrounded by armed Fatah guards. And they've got semi-automatic weapons. Obviously, I watch a lot of TV. I know what a semi-automatic looks like. Now, had I been going to meet, as I did sometimes, underworld leaders from the West, their security, yeah, hi, yeah, okay, they've got guns, I wasn't afraid. But when they put me into an elevator, this man here was 6'5", this man here was 6'6", dressed in army fatigues, and one of them said into the walkie-talkie, in my mind, the subtitle said, "We'll kill the white woman later." And I had a realization, and not a nice one. I had Arabophobia. So there was me, educated journalist, about to write about the Palestine-Israel conflict. Hate that word, but that's what they use. And I was biased against Arabs from the get-go. Important realization. But here's what happened. 72 hours later in the West Bank, having gone around on my own, ignored all of the advice to stay in the hotel, got into cars, gone to people's houses, visited refugee camps, I was in love with the people. I was in love with them. And I felt that they loved me in a way that I'd never experienced love before. I was a Christian, a member of Tony Blair's family. I would have suspected perhaps a kidnapping risk. Instead, all I received was love and understanding and generosity. That and subsequent trips made me want to read the Quran. Subhanallah. By the grace of Allah, I came to Islam in 2010 and had a very short, sharp, shall we say, a masterclass in how Muslims get treated who want to enter the public space. Now remember, I come from a background of protesting against the Iraq war, protesting against the Blair government, protesting against Bush, all as a mainstream journalist, no issue. Writing about it, no issue. Day one as a Muslim, wow. I wish I had the headline to show you, but it shows in the so-called Liberal Guardian. There was a cartoon of me in a burqa, and the headline said, Lauren Booth would do anything to get in with the tough guys. And it was by a writer called Julie Burchill, again, from the left, the liberal. Easygoing, everybody's welcome, really. But if you're Muslim, the section I really objected to in that first article, mocking my conversion to Islam, laying out the format for the career ending, in that phrase, in that frame of work, career ending attacks that would go on, because I was a Muslim woman speaking in public. It said, why would any woman freely convert to a religion which routinely murders homosexual, spirited women and Christians? Routinely, as if it was part of the faith. I expected the article to happen, but I was shocked that in a mainstream paper they thought they could get away with this. I came from the freedoms of the West. I expected those liberties to be applied in print to the Muslims. Imagine my shock. I crossed, as they say, through the looking glass. Alice in Wonderland goes into a fantasy world and goes, what's going on here? That's been my experience. At the same time, I was working once a week at Sky News, presenting a newspaper review in the morning, 6 a.m., you know? Or sometimes 1 in the morning, sometimes 6 in the morning, those kind of things. For the first month of being a Muslim, I would wear my hijab in the car, take it off to go in, until I read the ayat in the Quran that spoke about hypocrites, and I was like, oh my God, I'm such a hypocrite. That's why we need advice about these things, because you try and apply them, you just get into hysterics. But it's good, it was done with sincerity. So I went in with my hijab to Sky News. And one of the funniest moments, actually, remember I'd been like 10 years, blonde, smelling of alcohol, how you doing guys? Now I come in, dressed in my normal clothes, a bit looser, but with a hijab. So I go into the makeup room and they go, hi Lauren. Literally a double take. Hi can see them because the mirror's there and they're going, oh my God, like this. And then I remember the makeup lady doing my face and going, do you want your hair done? Oh no, forget the hair, forget it. So everyone was a bit nervous. I said, relax, it's okay, I'm just going to do the job I've always done. So then I go on to the set, and all credit to the professionalism of the male presenter. Hi Lauren, how you doing? I'm fine, good to see you. Not a flicker. Good work. So I did the same kind of review I had been giving for 10 years, from my viewpoint, my opinion, Middle East, British politics, all of those. There was only one difference. 48 hours later, I got a phone call from the producer who I'd known for a decade saying, yeah, Lauren, thing is, we've had a little jiggle around and you don't fit into the lineup anymore. Nothing personal, thanks, just having a look at how things are by. Zero evidence it was to do with the hijab. And there are other hijabis on national TV now, but they come from an ethnic background. And I want us to think about this. If someone in the mainstream, as I was, who's been the voice of newspapers for 15 years, been paid six-figure salaries to speak in an editorial manner, then says, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, I want to wear the hijab and I want to praise Allah, how can they deal with that? They actually can't. There's only two options in this case for someone who converts to Islam. One, the newspapers paint you as someone who's been radicalized, extremist, and lost their mind. Or two, maybe there's a God and Lauren's onto something and we should look at Islam again. Was that going to happen? No. So within a matter of weeks, so headlines came, Islamists to this, Islamists that. So I've had a bit of a hothouse experience. So alhamdulillah, I'm still standing. Allah has given many beautiful opportunities. I devote my life to dawah now. Whereas once upon a time, I'd be asked onto the TV to talk about vaccinations for children, politics around the world. Now it's just hijab, burqa and terrorism. I'm going to own it. You're going to get my opinions then on the world news. And if you want me just to stick to that, I'm going to accept your offer. May Allah accept it from me, inshallah ta'ala. All mistakes are my own and all praises to Allah. With the short time we've got, I'd love to take some questions. Thank you.
Inshallah.